The house felt eerily quiet that afternoon, the kind of silence that makes everything seem a little too still. My dad had left early for a business trip, and my younger siblings were out with their friends. It was just me, sitting on the couch in the living room, flipping through TV channels with little interest. The summer heat outside made the air thick and heavy, and even inside, with the air conditioning running, I felt sluggish. Nothing on TV seemed interesting, and I sighed, sinking further into the cushions, feeling the weight of boredom pressing down on me. I had been looking forward to summer break, but now that it had started, it felt disappointingly uneventful. Most of my friends were either on vacation or busy with summer jobs, and I found myself spending way too much time alone in the house. I had considered going out for a walk, maybe heading to the basketball court nearby, but the heat outside was unbearable. Instead, I just sat there, mindlessly scrolling through my phone, waiting for anything to happen. It was then that I heard footsteps approaching from the kitchen. A moment later, my stepmom, Emily, appeared in the doorway. She had been married to my dad for about 5 years now, and while I wouldn't say we were super close, she had always been kind to me. She was in her early 40s, with light brown hair always neatly tied back, and she carried herself with the kind of confidence that made people listen when she spoke. "Hey, Jake," she said with a warm smile. "You look like you're about to fall asleep. Everything okay?" I shrugged. "Yeah, just bored, I guess." She crossed her arms, studying me for a moment. "I was about to bake some cookies. Want to help me out?" Baking wasn't exactly on my list of things I ever planned to do, but at that moment, anything seemed better than staring at the ceiling. Plus, the idea of warm, homemade cookies sounded pretty good. "Sure, why not?" I said, getting up from the couch. We walked into the kitchen, and she already had all the ingredients set out on the counter: flour, sugar, eggs, butter, and of course, a giant bag of chocolate chips. She handed me a mixing bowl and a whisk. "Ever made cookies from scratch before?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Nope," I admitted. "I usually just eat them." She laughed. "Well, first time for everything. Let's start with the flour." She guided me through the process, showing me how to measure the ingredients properly, how to crack eggs without getting shell pieces in the bowl, and how to mix everything just right. I was surprised at how much work went into it. I had always assumed baking was just throwing a bunch of stuff together and putting it in the oven, but there was an actual method to it. At one point, I accidentally poured too much vanilla extract into the bowl, and Emily burst out laughing. "Well, I guess these will be extra flavorful," she said, shaking her head. "Yeah, let's just call it my special touch," I joked. We continued mixing the ingredients, and as we worked, we talked. She told me about how she used to bake with her grandmother when she was my age, how she had learned all the little tricks that made cookies taste just right. In turn, I told her about the summer basketball camp I was thinking about joining but wasn't sure if I should. "Why not?" she asked as she stirred the batter. "You love basketball. Seems like a great way to stay active and meet new people." I shrugged. "I don't know. What if I'm not good enough? I mean, I play, but I've never been on a real team." She set the mixing spoon down and looked at me seriously. "Jake, you're never going to know unless you try. And even if you're not the best player out there, who cares? You'll get better. The important thing is that you do something you enjoy." I thought about that for a moment. Maybe she was right. I had been overthinking it too much, worried about what could go wrong, instead of just going for it. Before I knew it, we had shaped the cookie dough into small balls and placed them on a baking sheet. Emily slid the tray into the oven, and soon, the entire kitchen was filled with a warm, rich scent of chocolate and butter. My stomach growled, and Emily chuckled. "Smells good, doesn't it?" "Yeah," I admitted. "Better than I expected." We sat at the kitchen table while the cookies baked, just talking about random things. She told me about a road trip she had taken when she was younger, driving across the country with a couple of friends and stopping at all these weird roadside attractions. I found myself actually enjoying the conversation, something I hadn't expected when she first walked into the living room earlier. When the timer finally beeped, Emily pulled the tray out of the oven, and the cookies looked perfect, golden brown, slightly crispy on the edges but soft in the center. She handed me one, still warm, and I took a bite. "Not bad, huh?" she asked. I nodded, chewing. "Okay, fine. They're amazing. She smirked. Told you. We spent the next hour just sitting there, eating cookies and talking. It was one of the first times in a while that I actually felt like I wasn't just wasting time. It was simple, but somehow it made the day feel less dull. As I grabbed another cookie, I glanced at Emily. Hey, thanks for this. I mean, I didn't expect baking cookies to actually be fun, but it was. She smiled. Anytime, Jake. And hey, if you ever feel like baking again, you know where to find me. I laughed. Don't push it. She chuckled, shaking her head. All right. But seriously, think about that basketball camp. I think you'd do great. I nodded, considering it. Maybe she was right. Maybe this summer didn't have to be boring after all. Later that evening, as I sat in my room, scrolling through my phone again, I saw an email from the basketball camp I had been looking into. Without overthinking it this time, I clicked the sign-up button. Maybe summer was about to get a lot more interesting.